What if the giant beasts of prehistory still walked the earth side by side with us, in our cities, our forests, our oceans? In the next moments, you'll discover a world both breathtaking and terrifying. A world where humans must survive among towering predators, where the skies are ruled by ancient wings, and where every step could shake the ground beneath you. Welcome. I am the Sleepy Doctor. Tonight, let us journey together into a reality that never was, but could have been. But before we start, make sure to like this video and subscribe so I can bring you more thrilling bedtime documentaries to spark your dreams. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine this. It is not 2025. It is today, but in a world where 65 million years ago the asteroid never struck. The skies never darkened. The forests never burned. Life continued. Dinosaurs survived, thrived, and evolved alongside mammals, birds, and eventually humans. What kind of planet would we see? The Earth would look familiar, but only at first glance. Mountains still rise, oceans still stretch endlessly, deserts still shimmer in the sun. Yet, every environment pulses with a prehistoric energy. Forests are vast jungles, ancient and humid, filled with ferns taller than houses and trees whose roots claw deep into the soil. The air carries the heavy scent of damp leaves, and each shadow hides movement. A rustle could mean a small reptile, or a giant predator on the hunt. Plains echo with thunderous footsteps. Herds of hadrosaurs, duck-billed giants, graze on tall grasses, their calls carrying across miles. The earth trembles beneath them as if the ground itself breathes with life. Rivers and lakes are alive with creatures long forgotten. Massive crocodile-like reptiles sunbathing on muddy banks, while pterosaurs swoop low, wings casting shadows over the water. The skies themselves are alive. Not only with birds, but with pterosaurs whose wingspans rival airplanes. When one passes overhead, it blocks the sun for a moment, leaving you in awe, and perhaps in fear. Every corner of this world reminds us that humans are no longer at the top of the food chain. In this reimagined Earth, dinosaurs would not be rare or exotic. They would be everywhere. In jungles, the mighty Tyrannosaurus rex roams, stalking prey with unmatched precision. In swamps, armored ankylosaurs wallow in the mud, safe in their living fortresses of bone and spikes. There on coastlines, marine reptiles, descendants of mosasaurs, lurk beneath the waves, capable of swallowing a fishing boat whole. In deserts, packs of raptors race across the sands, faster and more coordinated than wolves. Imagine walking outside your house and seeing a brachiosaurus towering above the trees, its long neck stretching into the sky as it feeds lazily on leaves. It is peaceful, but its sheer size reminds you how small and fragile you are. Now ask yourself, how would we humans live in such a world? Civilization would look different. Cities would not rise unchecked into the wild, for the wild itself would push back. Villages might be built high on cliffs or fortified with stone walls to keep predators out. Roads would need to be patrolled, not against robbers but against raptors. Domestication might take on a new meaning. Just as humans once tamed horses and dogs, we might try to tame smaller dinosaurs. Imagine farmers using triceratops-like creatures as living tractors, their strength pulling plows across fields. Or hunters riding swift, feathered raptors as companions, dangerous but loyal if trained from birth. Yet danger is never far away. A rex wandering too close to a settlement would be a nightmare beyond imagining, its roar freezing blood in the veins of anyone who hears it. In our real world, humans rose to dominance because no predator was strong enough, smart enough, or numerous enough to stop us. But in a dinosaur Earth, that balance might never have tipped so easily. Would humans have invented cities, technology, machines? If every step outside the firelight meant risking an encounter with a predator that could crush you in seconds? Or perhaps we would have evolved to be even more cunning, more cooperative, more resourceful, in order to outwit the giants around us. This reimagined Earth would be breathtakingly beautiful. A place of awe and discovery, but also a place of constant danger. Every sound in the night could be the whisper of wings. Every ripple on the water could signal a predator rising from below. Every vibration in the ground could be footsteps, coming closer, heavier, louder. And in this world, humanity's story would be written not in dominance, but in survival. Picture yourself standing in the middle of a wide-open plain. The grass sways gently in the evening wind, and the horizon glows orange with the fading light of the sun. At first, all you hear is silence, broken only by the chirping of insects. Then a distant rumble. It grows louder, steadier. The ground begins to tremble beneath your feet. And then, they appear. Towering above the trees, a herd of sauropods, long-necked dinosaurs, the true titans of Earth's history, move across the landscape. Their bodies stretch as long as buses, their necks rising like cranes into the sky. A brachiosaurus bends down to drink from a river, its movements slow and deliberate, like a living skyscraper. Apatosaurus sweeps its tail across the ground, the sound like a whip cracking through the air. A diplodocus grazes lazily, pulling entire branches down with a single bite. These creatures are not predators. They are gentle, plant-eating giants, and yet their size alone makes them more dangerous than any modern animal. To stand near one is to feel like an insect at the feet of gods. Imagine walking through a forest and suddenly realizing that the trees above you are not trees at all, but the necks of sauropods, slowly moving through the canopy. But for every giant herbivore, there are predators waiting in the shadows. The most feared, of course, is Tyrannosaurus rex. Its massive head, filled with teeth as long as knives, moves with surprising agility. Its eyes, forward-facing, intelligent, unblinking, lock onto movement. To hear its roar echo across the plains is to hear death itself announcing its arrival. But the T-Rex is not alone. Packs of velociraptors, smaller but infinitely more cunning, stalk prey with terrifying coordination. They move in silence, communicating with subtle chirps and growls, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Allosaurus, with its razor-sharp claws, patrols the forests like a restless shadow. Spinosaurus, longer than the T-Rex, rules the rivers. Its crocodile-like snout snaps shut on fish, and anything else that dares to come too close to the water's edge. In this world, predators are everywhere. And unlike lions or tigers of today, these creatures are not limited to certain habitats. They rule jungles, deserts, plains, and coasts alike. Now, imagine your own life in such a world. Perhaps you live in a village built high on wooden stilts, far above the swampy ground. From your window, you watch as hadrosaurs, duck-billed dinosaurs, graze near the water. They are harmless enough, their calls echoing like deep trumpets. But just beyond them, a shadow moves. A Spinosaurus rises from the river, its sail cutting through the mist, its jaws snapping in hunger. In seconds, the peaceful scene transforms into chaos. The hadrosaurs bellow in alarm and scatter, the water churns with violence, and you know your people will spend the night huddled in fear, praying the monster does not come closer. Or perhaps you live near the mountains. Your walls are strong, your torches bright. But still, in the dead of night, a sound awakens you, the crunch of stone underfoot. You climb to the lookout tower and freeze. Beyond the gate stands a T-Rex, silent, watching, its massive body half hidden in the darkness. It does not attack tonight, but it could. And that knowledge alone shapes every choice your people make. Just as we once drew mammoths and lions on cave walls, our ancestors in this world would have painted dinosaurs in firelit caves. Entire mythologies would grow around them. A brachiosaurus might be seen as a living mountain, a sacred guardian of the forest. Your raptors might become symbols of cunning spirits, to be feared and respected. The roar of a T-Rex could become the voice of gods, demanding sacrifice. Every religion, every legend, every bedtime story for children would be filled with the presence of these creatures. Because how could humans ignore them? They would not just live alongside us, they would define us. In such a world, every day would feel like walking through a documentary. Imagine traveling by boat down a wide river, only to see the shadow of a massive plesiosaur beneath the surface. Imagine harvesting crops while pterosaurs circle above, their cries echoing across the sky. Imagine children pointing at the horizon as a herd of triceratops marches past, their horns gleaming in the sun. We would never grow used to it. Even after centuries, the sight of these giants would still strike awe into our hearts. And yet, we would also adapt. Humanity always adapts. We would build walls, weapons, and perhaps even partnerships. Just as wolves became dogs, perhaps some smaller dinosaurs would become allies. Imagine farmers using ornithomimous, ostrich-like dinosaurs, to guard their fields, or herders guiding flocks of smaller herbivores as living livestock. But the great predators? They could never truly be tamed. They would remain the eternal shadow in our world, the reminder that no matter how advanced we became, Earth still belonged to them. Let us step deeper into this alternate Earth. Imagine waking up in a small human settlement on the edge of a vast savanna. The morning air is heavy with mist, and the ground still holds the coolness of night. Your day begins not with the crow of a rooster, but with a distant, resonant call, the low, echoing bellow of a Parasaurolophus. Its sound travels for miles, vibrating in your chest. Farmers in the village pause, listening as if nature itself is announcing the dawn. The mist parts and you see them, entire herds of duck-billed dinosaurs grazing on the tall grasses just outside your village. Their bodies sway as they move, tails swinging like living pendulums. Children point and laugh, marveling at the sight, though their parents remain cautious. They know that where there are herds, predators often follow. In this alternate Earth, our cities could not simply sprawl unchecked across open plains. Imagine instead towering fortresses built on cliffs, their walls reinforced with stone, wood and iron spikes to deter hungry creatures. Rope bridges connect high towers, allowing humans to travel above ground level, safe from predators lurking below. Inside the city, life thrives. Marketplaces buzz with trade, storytellers gather crowds, and artisans carve dinosaur bones into tools, ornaments, and even weapons. Outside the walls, however, the wilderness is alive with danger. Travelers must move in caravans, their paths watched carefully by armed guards. Not to protect against bandits, but against raptors who could tear through an unguarded group in moments. Imagine soldiers in gleaming armor, not on horseback, but mounted on domesticated ceratopsians, their horns capped with iron, their bodies covered with protective plating. Human ingenuity would merge with dinosaur power, creating a society unlike anything our history has ever known. The world above would be just as dangerous as the ground below. Quetzalcoatlus, the largest pterosaur, would patrol the skies with wingspans rivaling small airplanes. Its shadow passing over a village would send people scrambling for shelter, unsure if the giant intended to swoop down and snatch livestock, or worse, children. The smaller pterosaurs like Rhamphorhynchus might fill the skies the way pigeons do today. Their cries would be as common as bird song, their wings fluttering against sunsets and storms alike. Humans might string nets across village entrances, not to keep out insects, but to guard against sudden aerial attacks. Traveling across open ground would require constant vigilance. A caravan crossing a wide desert might suddenly scatter as a shadow blots out the sun and a giant pterosaur dives, jaws wide, eyes glinting with hunger. The seas too would be transformed. Imagine standing on a dock, preparing to set sail, when the water ripples strangely. The hairs on your neck rise as a vast shape glides beneath your boat. It is a mosasaur longer than 2 buses, its powerful tail sweeping side to side. Fishermen would tell stories of boats vanishing in an instant, swallowed whole by the monsters of the deep. In shallow waters, plesiosaurs would stalk fish and seals, their long necks darting like snakes. In reefs, giant ichthyosaurs would flash through schools of fish, their speed unmatched. But whales might not exist in this timeline, replaced instead by colossal marine reptiles that dominate the oceans as apex predators. Entire civilizations might fear the open sea, their myths filled with tales of serpent gods that lurk in the depths. Yet brave sailors would still venture forth, risking everything to cross oceans, armed with harpoons tipped in fire and steel. Imagine the stories people would tell. In one village, elders warn of the night hunter, a black-feathered raptor that stalks children who wander too far from home. In another, they whisper of the sun giant, a brachiosaurus whose body blocks out the sky when it walks. Farmers treat it as a blessing if it passes near their fields, believing it brings rain. And near the coasts, fishermen leave offerings to the Sea King, a mosasaur whose wrath can overturn ships. These myths would not be simple superstition, they would be rooted in survival. To forget the stories would mean forgetting the lessons, and forgetting the lessons could mean death. Daytime is filled with awe and wonder, but night is different. In the darkness, the calls of nocturnal dinosaurs echo across the land. Some are haunting, like the owl-like screeches of small feathered raptors. Others are bone-chilling, like the guttural growl of a prowling predator just beyond the firelight. Imagine lying in bed, hearing the earth shake as something massive passes nearby. Your walls rattle, dust falls from the ceiling, and everyone holds their breath, hoping it does not come closer. Torches burn all night, watchmen stand on guard, and yet no one ever feels truly safe. The night belongs to them, the giants, the hunters, the shadows of prehistory. And yet, humanity would never give up. We would build traps, massive pits covered with wooden planks, designed to capture unwary predators. We would forge weapons, spears tipped with iron, crossbows loaded with bolts strong enough to pierce thick hides. Perhaps even gunpowder would be discovered earlier in history, born from the desperate need to defend ourselves against these monsters. Imagine musketeers standing in line, not against enemy armies, but against a charging triceratops, their weapons thundering in unison as smoke fills the air. Human civilization in this world would be shaped entirely by the presence of dinosaurs. Our weapons, our walls, our stories, all would be designed with one purpose: to survive the giants that still roam the earth. Step back and consider the earth as a whole. The land would not be dominated by cities and highways as it is in our reality. Much of it would remain wilderness, because taming it would be nearly impossible. Dinosaurs would roam free, shaping the world in ways we could only attempt to resist. And yet, despite the danger, it would be beautiful. To walk among dinosaurs is to walk among living history. To see the world as it once was and as it could have been. Every sunrise would reveal new wonders. Every sunset would bring new dangers. And every heartbeat would remind us that we are small, but also resilient. Human history as we know it is the story of our rise to dominance. We tamed fire, forged tools, built villages, cities, and empires. But in a world where dinosaurs still roam, this rise would be far from guaranteed. Instead of being the unquestioned rulers of Earth, we would live as survivors, forever negotiating our existence alongside giants. Every human achievement would be shadowed by the threat of claws, teeth, and thunderous footsteps. Would we still rise? Yes. But our path would be slower, harder, more dangerous. And it would shape us into a civilization unlike anything we know today. The earliest humans would never dare to build on open plains. The risk of a nighttime raid by predators would be too great. Instead, villages would spring up in high places, or on cliff sides where sheer rock walls offered protection, in dense forests where towering trees provided cover, or on islands where waters, though filled with marine reptiles, still offered a natural barrier against land predators. Homes would be built of stone, wood, and bone. Fire would burn at all hours, not only for warmth but as a deterrent against raptors and other hunters. Children would grow up knowing that every sound in the night might mean danger. Everyday life would be shaped by vigilance. Foraging for berries, hunting smaller animals, or fishing in rivers would always be done in groups. No one would ever walk alone. Imagine a hunting party setting out at dawn. Their goal is not deer or rabbits, but smaller dinosaurs, perhaps hypsilophodons or ornithomimids, swift but catchable. The hunters carry spears tipped with sharpened stone, nets woven from fibers, and torches to scare predators. As they track their prey, the forest is alive with sound. Chirps, calls, rustles in the undergrowth. Suddenly the hunters freeze. A low growl echoes through the trees. Not their prey, something else. Raptors. The hunters form a circle, spears outward, torches held high. The raptors stalk the edges of the clearing, their eyes glowing with intelligence. For minutes that feel like hours, predator and human stare at one another. Then with a shriek, the raptors lunge. Such hunts would be as much about survival as about food. Many would not return. And those who did would tell stories that shaped the culture of their people. As time passed, humans would begin to farm, but even this would be different. Fields would need constant protection, not only from pests but from massive herbivores capable of destroying an entire harvest in a single night. Picture a farmer waking in the morning to find a herd of stegosaurs trampling through his crops. Their spiked tails swing casually, flattening fences and smashing tools. They are not malicious, only hungry, but the damage they cause is devastating. To survive, humans would build living fortresses around their fields. Walls of stone reinforced with spikes, trenches filled with fire, and watchtowers where guards sound horns at the first sign of a wandering giant. Agriculture would still take root, but it would never be easy. Eventually, humans would attempt the unthinkable, taming dinosaurs. Not the great predators. Those were too dangerous, too intelligent, too wild. But the smaller or gentler species might be possible. Triceratops could become the oxen of this world, harnessed to pull plows or carry heavy loads. Their horns would be decorated with paint and gold, symbols of strength and status. Hadrosaurs might be raised in herds like cattle, their meat and hide sustaining entire villages. Ankylosaurs, covered in bony armor, could serve as living tanks, guarding settlements from predators. Feathered raptors, if raised from hatchlings, might even be loyal companions. Dangerous, yes, but fiercely protective. Imagine a caravan traveling across the plains, guarded by armored ankylosaurs and led by humans riding triceratops. The sight alone would be enough to deter most predators. Taming dinosaurs would transform human civilization. Where once we feared them, now we would wield their strength. As humans grew bolder, cities would rise. But they would look nothing like our modern metropolises. Walls would be thicker, taller, and stronger, built not to keep out armies of men but herds of dinosaurs. Watchtowers would line the edges, with guards scanning for movement across the horizon. The streets would be wide, not for cars or wagons, but to allow triceratops and other beasts of burden to move freely. Markets would buzz with trade. Hunters selling raptor hides, farmers offering hadrosaur meat, craftsmen displaying jewelry carved from dinosaur teeth and bones. At night, torches and fires would burn across the walls, not for decoration but for survival. For beyond the glow of firelight, the wilderness would always stir. In this world, dinosaurs would not simply be animals. They would become gods. The Brachiosaurus, towering above forests, would be worshipped as the Sky Walker, a gentle giant connecting Earth to the heavens. The Tyrannosaurus, feared by all, would become the Lord of Death, its roar set to summon storms. The Triceratops, strong and armored, would be a guardian spirit, protector of villages and fields. The pterosaurs, soaring high above, would be messengers of the gods, their flight patterns read as omens. Temples would rise, decorated with carvings of dinosaurs. Priests would wear feathers, bones, and teeth as sacred symbols. Sacrifices, animal or even human, might be offered to appease the great predators lurking beyond the walls. Religion, in this world, would be inseparable from survival. Now imagine war. Not only humans fighting humans, but humans fighting with dinosaurs. Armies clashing on open plains, banners fluttering, horns blaring. But instead of horses, cavalry charge atop ceratopsians, their horns gleaming with iron. Siege weapons fire from behind walls, not only at enemy soldiers but at towering sauropods unleashed as living battering rams. Raptors, bred and trained for battle, dart through enemy lines, tearing into flesh with terrifying efficiency. The battlefield would be chaos. Dust, blood, roars, and screams blending into a symphony of destruction. Victories would be monumental, defeats catastrophic. And through it all, the dinosaurs would remain the most fearsome weapons ever known. Step back once more and you see it clearly, human civilization in this world is not our own. Our technologies are forged faster, our weapons stronger, our walls higher, our stories richer. We are cleverer, more cautious, more united, because we must be. Every moment of our existence is shaped by the need to survive alongside giants. And yet, for all the danger, there is beauty. For in this world, humanity never loses its sense of wonder. Every sunrise brings the sight of creatures from an age long past. Every night, the stars shine above a world still untamed, still alive with ancient power. It is a harder life, a more dangerous life, but perhaps also a more extraordinary one. The village was quiet. Too quiet. It lay at the base of a rocky cliff, its wooden walls lined with sharpened stakes, its fires burning high in the night. Families huddled inside their homes, children tucked under blankets, elders whispering prayers to the sky. Beyond the walls stretched the endless savanna, tall grasses swaying in the moonlight, silver shadows dancing across the land. Then came the sound. A low rumble, faint at first. The ground trembled, the bowls on the tables rattled, and the dogs began to bark and whimper. The hunters on the watchtowers raised their torches, eyes straining against the darkness. Another rumble. Louder now. Steady. Heavy. Footsteps. The villagers knew what it meant. They had heard the stories. They had prayed those stories would never come true. And then they saw it. Out of the mist stepped a giant. Its head loomed above the walls, jaws glinting with teeth as long as daggers. Its eyes burned in the firelight, hungry, searching. The Tyrannosaurus Rex had come. The guards shouted, banging drums and blowing horns. Flames roared higher as villagers rushed to the walls with spears and bows. The beast roared in return, a sound so deep and violent it seemed to tear the night apart. Children screamed. Some fell to their knees, covering their ears. The monster lunged. Its jaws clamped down on the outer gate, splintering wood like straw. Spears flew, bouncing harmlessly off its scales. Arrows stuck in its hide but only enraged it further. Inside the village, chaos erupted. Mothers gathered their children, dragging them toward caves at the base of the cliff. Elders prayed louder, their voices trembling. And in the heart of it all, the hunters prepared themselves. They had trained for this. They had dug trenches filled with burning oil. They had set traps with sharpened spikes. Tonight they would test everything because if they failed, their people would be wiped out. The beast crashed through the first wall. Flames lit its body in an orange glow, scales gleaming like armor. Hunters lit torches and hurled them at its feet, igniting the trench. Fire roared up, surrounding the monster in a wall of heat. For a moment it hesitated. Its small eyes narrowed. It stepped back, snarling, its tail smashing into the ground like a whip. But hunger overcame fear. With a furious roar, the T-Rex leapt across the flames, jaws snapping shut on one of the hunters. His scream cut through the night before vanishing into silence. Panic swept the villagers. Some tried to flee, but outside the walls lurked another danger. Raptors. Dozens of them, their feathers glinting in the firelight, their eyes glowing with intelligence. They darted into the chaos, slashing with claws, pulling down those who tried to run. It was no longer just a battle against one beast. It was a massacre. The hunters rallied at the village square. Their leader, a scarred man with eyes hardened by years of survival, raised his spear high. "Hold the line," he shouted. "For your families, for your lives." They charged. Spears stabbed at the Rex's legs, arrows pierced its face, torches burned against its scales. For a moment, the tide seemed to turn. The great beast staggered, roaring in pain. Raptors shrieked as villagers fought back with knives and axes. But then, with a swing of its massive head, the Rex crushed two men at once. With a sweep of its tail, it shattered a hut, sending fire and sparks into the sky. Raptors swarmed over the walls, climbing like wolves on a carcass. The ground shook with death. The air was filled with smoke, screams, and the stench of blood. The leader climbed the watchtower, his spear tipped with iron, glowing from the fire. The Rex turned, jaws opening wide to swallow him whole. And then, with all his strength, the leader hurled the spear down its throat. The beast roared, a sound that shook the earth, its body thrashing wildly. It smashed into the tower, splintering wood, sending the leader falling into the flames below. For a moment, it seemed the battle was lost. But then, staggering, bleeding, the Rex turned and lumbered back into the mist. Raptors scattered, their shrieks fading into the distance. The village was left in ruins. The walls were broken, the fires smoldering, the ground littered with the fallen. Families wept, clutching the few survivors. They had driven the monster away. But they knew it was not victory. The Rex would return. And when it did, it would be hungrier, angrier, unstoppable. This was life in a world where dinosaurs still roamed. Every village lived with the knowledge that at any moment, the earth could tremble with approaching footsteps. That every night, predators circled beyond the firelight. That survival was not guaranteed. Not for a day, not even for an hour. And yet, humanity endured. Because what else could they do? To live in such a world was to live in fear. But also in awe. For even as the survivors rebuilt, even as they buried their dead, they could not forget the sight. The towering shadow in the flames, the roar that shook the heavens, the reminder that they were not rulers of this earth. They were survivors. Nothing more. Nothing less. The sun had barely risen when the earth shook again. From the horizon came the thunder of massive feet, the sound so deep it rattled the stone walls of the cliffside village. Survivors from the last night's attack scrambled to the towers, weapons in hand, faces pale and grim. They had learned something crucial. Dinosaurs do not respect boundaries. They do not negotiate. They simply exist, and humans must adapt or perish. A massive herd of sauropods appeared first, stretching across the plains like moving mountains. Their long necks swayed as they grazed, unaware, or perhaps indifferent, to the humans watching from above. But not all giants are gentle. Among the herd stalked predators, lying in wait for any weakness. A pack of raptors moved with terrifying precision, circling the herd, waiting for the young, the sick, the weak. And in the skies above, pterosaurs dived and circled, their shadows cutting across the ground. The villagers knew they could not stay in one place. Supplies were low. The fires needed wood. Water had to be drawn from the river, but now even the river teemed with Spinosaurus, lurking beneath the surface, jaws snapping at anything that came too close. Desperation forced humans to change strategy. They began forming alliances, not only with each other but with some of the dinosaurs. Small, trainable species became companions. Ornithomimids patrolled the perimeter, alerting humans to approaching predators. Triceratops and ankylosaurs served as living shields for villages and caravans. Even some feathered raptors, raised from hatchlings, became loyal guards, terrifying to all but their human masters. Yet the great predators, T-Rex, Allosaurus, and Spinosaurus, remained untamable. They were a constant threat, an ever-present reminder that humans were never at the top of the food chain. One night, under a crescent moon, the village faced its deadliest test. A T-Rex, larger than any they had seen, approached from the north. Its eyes glowed in the darkness, reflecting the torchlight like molten gold. Around it, a pack of raptors moved silently, herding terrified Triceratops into its jaws. The villagers fought bravely. Flaming torches blazed. Spears flew. Traps snapped shut, catching some predators, but not all. The earth shook with the T-Rex's approach, splintering walls and crushing defenses. Families huddled, praying, hearts pounding, knowing that at any moment, the monster could break through and claim them all. Humanity's survival depended on ingenuity. Villages built moats filled with fire, walls reinforced with stone and iron, and watchtowers high enough to see the approach of even the largest predators. Hunters developed silent weapons, spears tipped with iron and obsidian, and nets large enough to capture small dinosaurs. Children were taught from birth how to run silently, hide effectively, and recognize the signs of approaching giants. Their lullabies were not soft and sweet. They told of bravery, cunning, and the ever-present need to survive. Even farming had changed. Crops were guarded by herd dinosaurs, living walls of muscle and horn that kept most herbivores away. Yet nothing could fully stop the predators. Humans adapted, but fear never left their hearts. Over decades, humans learned a delicate truth. Coexistence was possible, but it required respect. Dinosaurs were not just animals, they were forces of nature, ancient and intelligent, shaping the world with every step. Some humans attempted to fight them outright, but villages were destroyed, families lost, civilizations wiped from memory. Others learned to move, adapt, and coexist, creating settlements where humans and tame dinosaurs lived in a precarious balance. Trade routes were guarded by trained raptors. Herds of Triceratops carried goods across dangerous plains. At night, watchfires blazed in the distance, signals of vigilance and community. Civilizations rose, not on conquest, but on careful negotiation with the giants that ruled the land. And yet, no human society ever forgot the lessons. The T-Rex could return. Raptors could strike at dawn. Spinosaurus could rise from the rivers at any time. Survival was never permanent. It was a daily, terrifying, awe-inspiring battle. And so, the world of humans and dinosaurs became one of constant tension, a landscape both beautiful and horrifying. Every dawn brought the chance to witness creatures of unimaginable size and power. Every night, fear returned with the sounds of footsteps, roars, and cries from the darkness. And yet, humans endured. Because to live in this world was to be vigilant, cunning, and courageous. To sleep was a luxury. To survive, an achievement. If you've enjoyed this journey into fear and wonder, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the Sleepy Doctor, so we can explore even more terrifying and breathtaking worlds together. The sun had barely dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in streaks of crimson and violet. A cool wind rustled through the tall grasses surrounding the cliffside village. Humans moved quietly, preparing their homes for nightfall. Fires were lit and watchtowers were manned. Every sound carried weight, every shadow could be the harbinger of death. And tonight, the sky would carry the greatest threat. At first, it was subtle, a ripple in the clouds, a flicker of movement above the treetops. Villagers looked up and squinted, but the shapes were distant, almost dreamlike. Then the shadows grew, stretching across the fields like dark sails. A Quetzalcoatlus appeared, its wingspan longer than a small building. It soared silently, its eyes scanning below, calculating, hunting. Behind it, dozens of smaller pterosaurs followed, diving and circling in tight formation, their cries piercing the evening air. Panic spread instantly. Children screamed, running to the safety of walls. Farmers abandoned their fields, dragging livestock behind them. The fires blazed higher as torches were thrown skyward, hoping to scare the predators. The first swoop came without warning. A Rhamphorhynchus dive-bombed a farmer, its sharp beak tearing at his arm. Screams echoed as people scattered. The Quetzalcoatlus circled above, then descended with terrifying grace, its beak snapping up a goat in a single motion. The villagers tried to fight back. Spears jabbed at the air, fire blazed from torches, arrows whistled upward. But the flying predators were fast, intelligent, and relentless. One by one, torches were snatched from watchtowers, arrows deflected by leathery wings, screams lost in the wind. Families huddled together in the shadows, praying, hoping that the predators would not notice them. But above, the hunters of the sky were patient. They would wait for mistakes. They would wait for fear to take over. Yet humanity never surrendered. They had learned from the land, from previous nights, from the beasts that had stalked them for generations. Nets were strung across courtyards, designed to snag smaller pterosaurs mid-flight. Fires burned along the rooftops to make the villages appear larger and more intimidating. One brave hunter climbed to the edge of the cliff with a massive torch, swinging it in wide arcs. He shouted and bellowed, drawing the attention of a swooping raptor. With a lucky strike, the torch grazed its wing, sending it crashing into the ground. Others followed, emboldened by the small victory. Still, the Quetzalcoatlus was patient, circling above, waiting for the perfect opportunity. And the village knew that tonight, they were only surviving by a thread. As darkness deepened, more shadows joined the hunt. Flocks of pterosaurs twisted and turned like living storms. Fires reflected off scales, teeth, and wings. The cries of humans mixed with the shrieks of flying predators in a cacophony of terror. A small child stumbled and a raptor dove. A mother screamed and threw herself in front of him, grabbing a spear. The raptor collided with the fire, screeching, but the child was safe. Moments like these were rare and precious. The villagers realized that in this world, survival was not just about strength. It was about cunning, quick thinking, and courage. And above all, it was about respect for the hunters of the sky. By midnight, the storm of wings had passed. The Quetzalcoatlus had vanished beyond the mountains, smaller pterosaurs returning to the forests. Villagers counted the cost. Livestock lost, injuries sustained, but no homes breached. They were alive. And they knew the lesson: the sky belonged to them. Humans could never dominate it. They could only survive within it. Watchtowers would always be manned, fires always burning, nets always strung. The hunters above were patient, relentless, immortal in their memory. As the survivors huddled near the embers of the fire, listening to the distant flapping of wings fading into the night, a deep, solemn awe filled them. To see such giants, to witness the precision and power of flight, was terrifying and beautiful. In this world humans could walk on land, but the sky was not theirs. It belonged to the hunters, the airborne predators, the shadows that would always watch from above. The village had survived the hunters of the sky, but another threat lingered, one that could not be seen from the safety of the cliffs. Water, once a source of life, had become a place of terror. Rivers, lakes, and oceans teemed with predators older than humanity itself. Tonight, a group of fishermen and explorers set out in a small raft, unaware that the calm waters were anything but safe. At first, the river seemed peaceful. Mist hovered above the surface, curling in slow, ghostly swirls. The only sound was the soft splash of paddles cutting through water. The men whispered to one another, checking their nets and spears. But beneath the surface, shapes moved with predatory precision. Shadows glided silently, eyes glowing faintly beneath the moonlight. The river was home to mosasaurs, massive marine reptiles with jaws strong enough to crush bone, and plesiosaurs, long-necked hunters that could strike with the speed of lightning. The explorers had heard the legends. They knew the risks, but legends were not enough preparation for the reality that now approached. A ripple passed beneath the raft. At first it was small, almost playful. But then came a flash of teeth, sharp, curved, terrifying. A mosasaur erupted from the water, tail thrashing, jaws snapping at the raft. The men shouted, scrambling to keep balance, paddles swinging. The beast collided with the vessel, sending water and wood flying. One man tumbled into the river, screaming as the mosasaur circled, ready to strike again. His companions hurled spears, but the thick hide of the predator deflected every blow. And then came the plesiosaurs, their long necks arcing above the water, snapping at anyone daring to stand. The river became a battlefield, the night filled with splashing, screams, and the roar of predators unseen beneath the waves. The explorers realized that their only chance lay in cunning, not strength. They used nets and fire, creating barriers and distractions. One clever fisherman struck a torch into the water near a plesiosaur, scaring it momentarily and forcing it to retreat. Another swung a heavy spear at a mosasaur's eye, causing it to back off, bleeding but alive. Even so, the river demanded respect. Each wave, each shadow, each ripple could conceal death. The men learned quickly, survival meant patience, intelligence, and timing. A single misstep could be fatal. By dawn, the river had returned to seeming calm. The explorers were exhausted, their raft battered, but they had survived. They pulled the vessel onto the shore, hearts pounding, bodies shaking. They had glimpsed the true rulers of the water, creatures far older, stronger, and more patient than humans could ever hope to be. Stories of this night would be told for generations. Tales of monsters that could swallow a man in a single bite, of serpentine hunters striking from below, of courage and ingenuity in the face of ancient terror. The humans understood that rivers, lakes, and oceans were no longer merely resources. They were domains of giants. To cross them was to dance on the edge of death. And yet, even in terror, there was awe. To see a mosasaur breach the surface, water cascading from its body like a waterfall, was to witness living history. To watch a plesiosaur strike with lightning speed was to glimpse evolution perfected over millions of years. The humans could neither dominate nor tame these creatures. They could only survive, marvel, and respect them. The river, once familiar, had transformed into a lesson in humility. In this world, the depths below were as alive and dangerous as the land above, reminding humans that survival demanded vigilance, courage, and unending respect for the ancient giants. As the explorers returned to the village, the sun rose over the horizon. The mist lifted, revealing the river in its calm, serene beauty. It was easy to forget the terror of the night, but they could never forget. The river held memories, lessons, and the silent, waiting presence of predators. Life on this world demanded adaptation. Humans had survived the sky, the land, and now the water, but each day brought new challenges. The giants of land, air, and sea had claimed dominion, and humans had only carved out a fragile existence among them. And as the villagers gathered by the river, sharing tales and tending to wounds, one thought lingered in every mind: the depths below are patient and they never forget. The world of humans and dinosaurs is one of constant tension. For thousands of years, humans have adapted to life alongside creatures that dominate every corner of the planet, on land, in the skies, and in the waters. And yet, despite the danger, civilization endures. Tonight, we explore what it might be like to face the full spectrum of these ancient giants in a single night. A night where survival depends not only on courage, but also on ingenuity and respect for the creatures that share this world. Across the plains, towering sauropods graze in slow, deliberate movements, their long necks reaching into the treetops. Among them lurk predators, Tyrannosaurus rex, Allosaurus, and packs of raptors, that constantly test the boundaries of human settlements. Villages are fortified with stone walls, sharpened stakes, and watchtowers. Humans have learned to harness some dinosaurs as allies: Triceratops for plowing and defense, Ankylosaurs as living armor, and even smaller raptors trained to alert communities of approaching threats. Every tool, every trap, every patrol is designed with a single goal: survival in a world where the giants are always watching, always waiting. The night sky presents a different challenge. Quetzalcoatlus, with wingspans larger than any human imagination, patrol the air above villages. Flocks of smaller pterosaurs accompany them, scanning for movement, for weakness. Humans have adapted with torches, nets, and watchtowers, but the skies are never truly safe. An aerial predator can descend in seconds, sweeping up livestock, or worse, the unwary traveler. To survive is to respect the hunters above, to move deliberately, and to remain vigilant at all times. Rivers, lakes, and oceans are equally treacherous. Mosasaurus lurk beneath the surface, and long-necked plesiosaurs strike with precision and speed. Even small water crossings are fraught with danger, requiring careful planning and constant observation. Fishermen and explorers must rely on ingenuity, rafts reinforced with spikes, fire to distract predators, and coordinated movements to ensure no one is left vulnerable. The water, like the land and sky, belongs to the giants. Humans have carved out only a fragile existence within it. Over generations, humans have learned to survive and even thrive in this world of giants. Trade routes are protected by trained dinosaurs, farms are guarded by armored herbivores, and villages maintain watchfires and nets to deter predators. Religion, culture, and mythology have grown from this constant interaction with ancient creatures. The Brachiosaurus is revered as the Sky Walker, the T-Rex as the Lord of Death, and the Pterosaurs as messengers of the gods. Stories of past attacks, survival, and alliances guide the next generation, ensuring that knowledge is never lost. Civilization in this world is not built on conquest. It is built on respect, strategy, and understanding of the ancient forces that still rule the earth. To live alongside dinosaurs is to live with awe and fear intertwined. Every sunrise is a reminder of life, every shadow a reminder of danger. Humans have not conquered this world. They have adapted, endured, and learned. The giants of land, sky, and water continue to shape life on Earth. They demand vigilance, patience, and courage. And for those willing to observe and respect them, the world offers unparalleled beauty, a living history of creatures older than humanity itself. As you close your eyes tonight, imagine standing on a cliff, watching the fires of a village glow below, the stars above, and the shadows of giants moving silently in the distance. Fear and wonder exist side by side, reminding us that life, even in a world of predators and titans, is extraordinary. Humans did not simply survive in a world dominated by dinosaurs. They adapted, innovated, and built civilizations unlike anything we know today. Life alongside giants demanded creativity, intelligence, and cooperation. Every human invention, every cultural practice, was shaped by the presence of creatures that could crush, devour, or sweep away entire villages in moments. Cities and villages were not constructed for beauty alone. They were built for protection. Walls were thick, reinforced with stone and metal, capable of withstanding the charge of a triceratops or the swipe of an ankylosaur's tail. Watchtowers soared high, giving humans early warning of predators on land, in the air, and along waterways. Rivers were crossed by bridges designed not only for people but for massive herbivores carrying supplies. Nets and barriers protected livestock, while clever traps and pitfalls provided an additional layer of safety against predators. Fire, torches, and smoke became tools of survival, illuminating danger before it could strike. Every innovation was a response to the giants around them, a dialogue between human intelligence and prehistoric power. Humans learned to farm alongside dinosaurs. Crops were protected by herds of domesticated triceratops and armored ankylosaurs, whose presence alone deterred most herbivores. Select smaller dinosaurs were trained to guard farms, alerting humans to approaching predators, while others were raised for food, hides, and labor. Even water was managed with care. Humans learned to harvest fish and freshwater reptiles safely, observing the behavior of mosasaurs and plesiosaurs to avoid deadly encounters. Agriculture became a balance of risk and reward, requiring constant vigilance and understanding of the natural world. Living with giants shaped human culture profoundly. Religion, art, and storytelling reflected the majesty and terror of the creatures around them. The Brachiosaurus were revered as skywalkers, gentle giants bridging heaven and earth. Tyrannosaurus rex were feared as lords of death, symbols of both destruction and power. The raptors and pterosaurs inspired tales of cunning, agility, and the intelligence of nature. Festivals celebrated survival and respect for these creatures. Art depicted their forms in intricate detail, while myths educated children about danger and survival. Knowledge was not only practical, it was sacred. The presence of dinosaurs demanded a delicate balance. Humans could never dominate the earth, they could only live within it. Survival required patience, strategy, and a constant awareness of the giant's power. Yet, coexistence also brought wonder. To see a herd of sauropods at sunrise, or a pterosaur gliding across the moonlit sky, or a mosasaur breaching in the river, was to witness history alive before your eyes. Fear and awe coexisted, shaping a world where every moment was alive with possibility. In this world, humanity's greatest achievements were not monuments of conquest, but of adaptation. Civilization grew not by subduing giants, but by learning from them, respecting their strength, and finding ways to live alongside them. As you close your eyes tonight, imagine standing in a village, fires glowing, watchtowers casting long shadows. Around you, the giants of land, sky, and water move silently, reminding us of the power and beauty of the earth. Fear exists, but so does wonder. Survival is hard, but life is extraordinary. If you've enjoyed this journey through a world ruled by giants, remember to like this video and subscribe to the Sleepy Doctor, so more stories of fear and discovery can guide you into dreams yet unseen. Sleep now and imagine a world where humans and dinosaurs share the earth, not in conflict alone but in coexistence, respect, and wonder.